life seemed pretty good. Unfortunately, off the treatment by September, I relapsed again, or I relapsed for the first time. And then I went back on the treatment. I obtained remission again. And then I was forced to go off the treatment because I had no veins left. I have very small veins, and there was no longer a viable means of obtaining infusion through veins. And it was a nightmare. In August 2007, I collapsed again. I felt sick all the time. I was desperate. For more than a year, I tried with every spare ounce of strength to learn about PICC lines and how to get one, because I knew that this could be my solution. Finally, in November 2008, after more than a year of living like a corpse, I managed to get a hospital to install a PICC line.
Please wrap up.
This, I think, also falls into the by grace of God category, 3 short paragraphs. I restarted Ozone November 5th. By February, I was again sitting up and writing. I could socialize, I could shop. And here I am via Amtrak, having just visited Egypt for 10 days, having done research trips to France in May and August. I'm alive and thriving. By the way, I'm not the only evidence for efficacy of ozone in ME/CFS. In January 2007, during a public session of the IACFS conference...
6 minutes are now up, so please conclude.
Fort Lauderdale, prominent European clinician Kenny Demerlier...
With all due respect, ma'am, others have honored the 5-minute, even Mr. Dessen this morning. We will accept your written, prepared comments. I want to allow as much time as I can for public comment this morning.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, Lee Meisel.
I'm a physician and attorney with 20 years experience in the biotechnology and specialty chemical industries. I have also been a CFS patient for the last 20 years. I'm currently a director both of the IACFS-ME and Epiphany Biosciences, and have previously served as director of other biotechnology and not-for-profit companies, including the HHV6 Foundation. This illness is at a critical juncture in its history, both in terms of major research findings that have the potential to transform the lives of millions, and the politics that could allow groundbreaking research to blossom and flourish into game-changing research. 2 studies reported over the last couple of months have brought us to this threshold. The publication this month in Science of the detection of XMRV in CFS patients is a landmark study. The presentation last month of the valomycyclovir trial at the ICAT conference marks the first in vivo demonstration of an anti-EBV effect of a drug in a phase 2 FDA-approved clinical trial. In the valomycyclovir trial, the median EBV viral load in the saliva of patients treated with valomycyclovir was undetectable at the end of the treatment period and reached statistical significance with a p-value of 0.002. Clinical course of illness was also significantly improved in the valomycyclovir group with a p-value of less than 0.05. The potential implications on EBV infectivity and infectious mono are obvious, with approximately 9 to 19% of patients progressing to meet criteria for CFS. The design for the next valomycyclovir trial will include an assessment for CFS at 6 months post-symptom onset. With sufficient levels of funding from public and private sources to pursue a comprehensive natural history study in infectious mono, the next valomycyclovir trial will be able to include assays of XMRV, other viruses of interest, and promising CFS biomarkers to gain a complete understanding of the early phases of CFS for the very first time. 25 years after the Lake Tahoe epidemic, we have finally built the foundation for CFS research to literally explode with innovative new findings, but for the absence of productive research program at CDC and ample dedicated research funding allocations from NIH. The CDC's 5-year CFS strategic plan and the levels of CFS research funding at NIH are not just woefully inadequate, they are an embarrassment. But this wouldn't have to be the case if political will was exercised to make the necessary organizational and cultural changes at CDC and NIAID. One of the most glaring deficiencies of past CDC stewardship has been the failure of CDC to develop extensive collaborative relationships with extramural researchers. Worse yet, NIAID's research plan for CFS is virtually non-existent. A CFS research program housed in the Office of Women's Health is not a substitute for a robust CFS research program headquartered in NIAID. The ideal clinical trial is described above that studies the natural history of infectious mono as it morphs into CFS would be the perfect opportunity for the CDC and NIH to develop an intensive interventional natural history study that would be truly transformative. Unfortunately, the leadership of the CDC and NIH when it comes to CFS is neither visionary nor have they prioritized CFS research. Mike Houghton, discoverer of hepatitis C, Lasker Award winner and chief scientific officer of Epiphany Biosciences, recently asked me 3 questions. First, why don't CDC and NIH have programs to diagnose and monitor CFS patients to establish the characteristics of CFS in patients with an onset consistent with an acute infection? Second, why aren't all available pathogen signature tests used by the CDC and NIH in this population to establish the infectious etiology? And third, why hasn't the CDC and NIH monitored the virological and host signature status of at-risk patients and compared the patients who resolve their infection to those who do not? I had no answers for Mike to any one of these questions except to say that a private foundation, the Whittemore Peterson Institute, has been working very hard to try to address your questions. This type of research program has been ongoing for many years for hepatitis C and HIV/AIDS and now needs to be applied to CFS in an expansive and systematic manner. Such a program requires tremendous resources and technical expertise. CFS patients deserve the same degree of scientific rigor that has been applied to the study of hepatitis C and AIDS. This is our moral imperative. A congressional investigation is long overdue to explore potential allegations of malfeasance or intentional misconduct at CDC and to explain why the CDC who has been continuously working in CFS research over the last 25 years, has been unable to uncover what a private foundation spending less than $2 million has been able to discover in 2 years. The CDC leadership at CDC and NIH has alienated a great number of CFS stakeholders. Let us seize this moment in history as it presents itself to us. The fruit on the vine could not be any riper. It is time for our government to finally do the right thing and serve its constituents instead of itself. It is time for the CDC and NIH CFS research programs to be rebuilt from scratch, from the ground floor, with a new culture and with new leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Massa. We don't question commenters. Is this something that can wait for the committee discussion?
Okay. Probably Nancy could probably answer anyway.
Okay. Thank you. Susan Magowitz.
Hi, my name is Susan Magowitz, and I've had CFS and fibromyalgia since 1995. Excuse me. After moving from New York to Atlanta, I have been unable to find a doctor who believes CFS is a real illness. Replacing my CFS doctor has required 4 additional doctors, plus a yearly return to New York City to see my CFS specialist. My healthcare team now includes an internist, an endocrinologist, a pain management specialist, and a pulmonary doctor. I also see a neurosurgeon annually. My internist takes care of my heart. I have SVTs, shortness of breath, and high blood pressure. My doctors become irritated with me when they find no other health problems, and I insist it is CFS related. My health had improved to the point that I wanted to try to lose some weight. I had begun walking on the beach. After a couple of weeks of walking, one afternoon my heart rate got stuck at 140, and I was having trouble breathing. My CFS was back. It seems to have moved from my brain to my heart. This is a common story that is repeated over and over again on the CFS forums. No one is warned. My endocrinologist is the youngest of my doctor, and she simply ignores my CFS. To her credit, she did not question Columbia Presbyterian's diagnosis of adult-onset human growth hormone deficiency. She regularly tests my IGF-1, renews my prescription for Nutroprin, and wrestles with my health insurance company. She also keeps track of my Hashimoto's thyroiditis and treats me with both T3 and T4, a combination that was originally prescribed by my CFS specialist.